William Thompson stepped out of his black car on a crisp Manchester morning. The driver, Michael, hurried around to help him, but William raised his hand gently. "I'm fine, thank you," he said with a warm smile. His weathered hand gripped his brass-handled cane as he stood on the sidewalk. Oxford Road buzzed with morning traffic and students rushing to their classes. William straightened his navy blue coat and adjusted his silk tie. At 78 years old, he moved with careful precision. Each step was measured, but his eyes were bright and alert. The university building loomed ahead. Its red brick walls had stood for over a century, and William admired the beautiful architecture. This was where his father had studied medicine 50 years ago. Today, William was returning to honor that memory in a special way. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson," called a young woman passing by. She was one of the scholarship recipients from his foundation. William nodded kindly, though he couldn't quite recall her name. His foundation supported hundreds of students across Britain. The morning sun warmed William's face as he walked. He had built his fortune through hard work and determination. Starting with a small textile shop in Leeds, he had grown it into a successful business. When he sold it 2 years ago, the sale made him over £600 million. Money had never been important to William. He lived simply in his London home with just a housekeeper. His real passion was helping others. The William Thompson Foundation now funded schools, hospitals, and medical research across the country. Today's visit was important. William had scheduled a meeting with the university officials to discuss his largest donation yet. £50 million would build a new medical research centre. It would focus on finding cures for diseases that affected older people like arthritis and heart conditions. As he approached the main entrance, William thought about his wife, Elizabeth. She had passed away 5 years ago, but he knew she would approve of this donation. Elizabeth had always believed in education and medicine. The ornate building entrance featured tall wooden doors and brass fixtures. William admired the craftsmanship. In his younger days, he had worked with his hands in the textile business. He appreciated quality when he saw it. "Almost there," he murmured to himself, approaching the revolving doors. The glass panels reflected his image. William saw an elderly man with silver hair, neatly trimmed beard and kind eyes. He wore his best suit today, wanting to show respect for the occasion. Students and staff moved quickly through the revolving doors. William watched them spin rapidly, calculating when to enter. His arthritis made sudden movements difficult, especially in the morning when his joints felt stiff. Taking a deep breath, William stepped forward. His walking stick tapped against the ground as he positioned himself at the entrance. The door continued spinning at its usual pace, faster than he could comfortably manage. He placed his hand on the doorframe and tried to time his entry, but the speed was too much. William hesitated, his foot hovering at the threshold. Inside, the lobby. People rushed past, all in a hurry. "Come on," he heard someone say impatiently behind him. William felt his face grow warm with embarrassment. He had managed a successful business for decades, made important decisions, and helped thousands of people. Yet something as simple as entering a building had become challenging. Finally, he moved forward too quickly to keep up with the pressure. The door pushed against his shoulder as he stumbled slightly. William caught himself leaning heavily on his cane. Once inside the lobby, he paused to catch his breath. The grand entrance hall featured marble floors and high ceilings. A large chandelier hung overhead. Despite its beauty, William couldn't help feeling self-conscious about his difficulty with the door. 2 security guards stood near the reception desk. They wore crisp blue uniforms with shiny badges. Both were young men, probably in their 20s. William noticed they had been watching him struggle with the revolving door. "Excuse me," William said politely, approaching the desk. "I have a 10 o'clock appointment with Professor Bennett." The receptionist, a middle-aged woman named Patricia, smiled warmly. "Of course, Mr. Thompson, they're expecting you on the 3rd floor." "Thank you," William replied. He turned toward the elevators, his walking stick tapping rhythmically on the marble floor. As he moved away, William overheard one of the security guards mutter something to his colleague. He couldn't make out the words clearly, but the tone suggested mockery. William's shoulders tightened slightly, but he continued walking with dignity. The elevator doors opened silently. William stepped inside, pressing the button for the third floor. As the doors closed, he straightened his tie and adjusted his coat. Today was important. He couldn't let a small embarrassment affect his purpose. The elevator rose smoothly. William thought about the Medical Research Center. It would have state-of-the-art equipment and attract the best scientists. Young doctors would train there, learning to help elderly patients like himself. When the doors opened on the third floor, William stepped out into a carpeted corridor. His cane made no sound now as he walked toward the conference room. Through the windows, he could see the Manchester skyline. The city had changed so much since his youth. At the conference room door, William paused. He could hear voices inside discussing research proposals. Taking a deep breath, he opened the door. Several people stood up to greet him. "Mr. Thompson, welcome." Professor Bennett came forward with an outstretched hand. "We're so pleased you're here." The end inside the conference room, William shook hands with Professor Elizabeth Bennett and her team. Her smile was genuine as she guided him to a comfortable chair. "Please, Mr. Thompson, make yourself at home." The room overlooked Manchester's city centre. William settled into the leather chair, placing his cane beside him. The table was covered with architectural drawings and research papers. "We're genuinely excited about your proposed donation," Professor Bennett began. "The Medical Research Center will focus on age-related conditions, arthritis, dementia, heart disease, conditions that affect millions." William nodded slowly. The irony wasn't lost on him. Here he was, discussing arthritis research, while still feeling the sting of being mocked for his arthritis moments ago. His joints ached slightly as he shifted in his chair. "Our current facilities are outdated," continued Dr. James Wilson, the head of medical research. He spread blueprints across the table. "With £50 million, we can build something remarkable. State-of-the-art laboratories, modern equipment." William studied the plans carefully. He traced his finger along the building layout. "This section here, what will you use it for?" "That's for patient testing areas," explained Dr. Rebecca Foster, a younger researcher. "We'll invite elderly volunteers to test new treatments. The space is designed to be accessible. Wide corridors, handrails, comfortable seating." As the team enthusiastically described their plans, William's mind drifted. The security guards, words echoed in his thoughts. "These old folks always taking their sweet time, always causing problems. Slower, coach." He straightened up, forcing himself to focus. These people before him, doctors and scientists, they cared about helping elderly people. They understood the challenges of aging. "Mr. Thompson?" "Professor." Bennett noticed his distraction. "Are you all right? Would you like some water?" "I'm fine, thank you," William replied softly. "Please continue." The presentation lasted another 45 minutes. They discussed funding schedules, construction, timelines, and research priorities. William asked thoughtful questions, his business mind still sharp despite his age. "Your donation will change countless lives," Professor Bennett concluded. "We're building a future where aging doesn't mean suffering." They shook hands, and William gathered his coat. "I'll have my lawyers review the paperwork," he said. "You should hear from us by next week." As they escorted him to the elevator, William felt a mix of feelings. Pride in this generous donation, but also hurt from the earlier encounter. The elevator descended smoothly to the ground floor. The doors opened, revealing the busy lobby. William stepped out, his eyes immediately scanning for the security guards. They were still there, Jack and Tom, standing by the revolving doors. "Thank you again, Mr. Thompson," Professor Bennett said, staying with him until the entrance. "My pleasure," William replied. He walked toward the exit, aware that the guards were watching him again. As he approached the revolving doors, they continued their conversation from earlier. Jack was loud enough for William to hear. "Bet he's here begging for something." "These old-timers always want special treatment," Tom laughed. "Probably asking for a bench outside so he can rest his old bones." William felt his face grow hot. He gripped his cane tighter. The doors were still spinning at the same quick pace. Need. "Help, Grandpa?" Jack called out mockingly. "Or can you manage on your own?" William stopped and turned toward them. Both guards were smirking, clearly enjoying themselves. Jack was tall and lean, with an unkempt beard. Tom had a shaved head and multiple earrings. "I've been managing quite well for 78 years, William said quietly. "But thank you for your concern." Jack raised his eyebrows. "Oh, a feisty one. Just remember to take your time. We've got all day to watch you shuffle in and out." William felt something shift inside him. All the times he'd ignored such disrespect came flooding back. The snickers in restaurants when he asked for assistance, the eye rolls from younger people when he moved slowly on sidewalks, the patronizing voices of sales clerks who spoke to him like a child. He straightened to his full height, which was still impressive. "Young man, your job is to provide security, not commentary on how people enter buildings." Tom stepped forward. "Someone's got attitude today. What are you going to do, hit us with your walking stick?" William's voice remained calm but firm. "I don't need violence to make a point, but I wonder, do either of you know why I'm here today?" Jack shrugged. "Probably complaining about the stairs. Or something. Actually, I came to donate £50 million to build a medical research centre." Both guards looked startled. Jack's smirk faded slightly. "But perhaps," William continued carefully, "my foundation should support institutions that value respect and dignity for all visitors, regardless of age." He turned toward the revolving door. This time he entered despite its speed, determination, overriding his physical limitations. The door pushed against him, but he persisted. Outside on the pavement, William took a deep breath of fresh air. His driver, Michael, hurried forward. "How was the meeting, sir?" "Interesting," William replied. "Very interesting indeed." As Michael opened the car door, William paused and looked back at the building. Through the glass doors, he could see Jack and Tom talking urgently. For the first time that morning, they looked concerned. William settled into the back seat. "Michael, please schedule a meeting with my legal team for tomorrow morning." "Of course, sir. Anything specific?" "Yes," William said thoughtfully. "We need to discuss our donation criteria, perhaps add some new requirements about staff training and respect policies." The car pulled away from the curb. William watched the university building shrink in the rearview mirror. He'd come here to help people, to make a difference. The question now was whether some people deserved his help more than others. His phone buzzed with a message from Professor Bennett. "Thank you again for your time today. We look forward to working with you." William didn't reply immediately. Instead, he gazed out the window at the Manchester streets. Young professionals hurried past elderly pedestrians, barely noticing them. Students on bicycles weaved between slower walkers. He thought about his late wife, Elizabeth, again. She'd always said, "Judge people by how they treat those with less power than themselves." The end. The car ride back to London took 3 hours. William remained quiet throughout the journey, his mind replaying the day's events. The driver, Michael, glanced occasionally in the rearview mirror, concerned about his employer's unusual silence. "Would you like the radio on, sir?" Michael asked. "No, thank you," William replied softly. He preferred his thoughts today. When they arrived at his Kensington home, the familiar sight of the Georgian townhouse brought little comfort. William stepped out slowly, declining Michael's assistance. The evening air felt cool against his face. Inside, the house smelled of Mrs. Davies' cooking. The aroma of beef stew filled the hallway. William removed his coat and hung it on the brass hook. His reflection in the hall mirror showed an elderly man who looked more tired than usual. "Welcome home, sir," called Mrs. Davies from the kitchen. She had worked for William for 15 years, ever since his wife Elizabeth passed away. "How was your trip to Manchester?" "Fine, Margaret," William responded, walking toward his study. The familiar creak of floorboards followed his steps. He settled into his leather armchair by the fireplace. The room was his sanctuary, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, family photographs on the mantel, and his late wife's reading glasses still on the side table where she'd left them. Mrs. Davies brought tea on a silver tray. She noticed immediately that something was different. Mr. Thompson usually chatted about his day, sharing stories and asking about her family. "Everything all right, sir?" she asked, setting down the tray. William stared at the flames dancing in the fireplace. Orange and blue tongues of fire twisted upward, disappearing into the chimney. He thought about how fire could warm or burn, depending on how close you stood. "Margaret, how do they train security staff these days?" he asked suddenly. Mrs. Davies paused. In all her years working for Mr. Thompson, he'd never asked about security guards. "I'm not sure, sir. My nephew works security at Heathrow. He had to do a month of training, I think. Training in what exactly? Well, safety procedures, first aid, how to handle emergencies. She noticed Mr. Thompson's unusual interest. Why do you ask? William picked up his teacup. The china was delicate, painted with tiny blue flowers. His hands, though wrinkled, remained steady. Just wondering about respect and dignity in our modern world. Mrs. Davies sat down in the chair opposite him. This was unusual too. Normally, she'd leave him to his evening tea, but something in his voice made her stay. Did something happen today? She asked gently. William sipped his tea slowly. Earl Grey, just how he liked it. The steam rose in delicate curls. People forget that. Age brings wisdom. They see only slowness, not experience. Mrs. Davies nodded. Her own father, 75, faced similar challenges. My dad says young people are always in such a hurry. They don't understand that life becomes more precious when you've lived it longer. Your father is a wise man, William replied. He set down his cup and leaned back in his chair. I've lived through wars, built businesses, raised children. Today a young security guard called me Grandpa Slowpoke. The words hung in the air. Mrs. Davies felt anger rise in her chest, but she kept her voice calm. That was very rude of him. It was, but it made me think. How many elderly people face such disrespect daily? How many feel invisible, worthless, slow? The grandfather clock in the corner ticked steadily. Its deep sound marked each passing second. William had bought it 50 years ago, shortly after his first big business success. Sir, you've helped so many people, Mrs. Davies said. Your foundation has changed lives. Don't let one rude guard upset you. William smiled sadly. It's not just one guard, Margaret. It's a whole way of thinking. When did we start valuing speed over wisdom, efficiency over kindness? Through the window they could see the London street. People hurried past on the sidewalk, cars rushed by. Everyone moving quickly, always somewhere important to be. Do you remember when this street was quieter? William asked. Children playing, neighbours chatting over fences. I do, sir. Things change. Change isn't always progress, William mused. He stood up and walked to his desk. Among the papers was the contract for the university donation. £50 million, a life-changing amount for the research centre. He picked up his reading glasses and examined the papers. The legal language was complex, but he understood it. Well, years of business had taught him to read between lines. Margaret, have you ever wanted to change how people treat the elderly? Mrs. Davies considered this. I suppose I have. When I see my father struggling to cross busy streets, or young, people pushing past him in queues. What if money could change attitudes? William asked, setting down the papers. Money can build things, sir, but changing hearts and minds, that's harder. William returned to his chair. The fire had died down to glowing embers. He watched the orange glow fade to grey ash. Perhaps, but money can send messages, strong messages. The mantel clock struck 8. Mrs. Davies stood to prepare dinner. I should let you rest, sir. Beef stew will be ready in an hour. As she reached the door, William called out, Margaret, when you speak to your nephew who works security, ask him what they teach about treating elderly visitors. I will, sir. After she left, William sat alone with his thoughts. The room grew dim as evening deepened outside. He didn't turn on lamps. The darkness felt right for his mood. His phone buzzed. A text message. William put on his reading glasses and checked. It was from Professor Bennett. We're still processing your generous donation. The board is thrilled. Building work could start next month. William typed a reply slowly, his arthritic fingers careful on the small keys. Please postpone any announcements. I need more time to consider. He sent the message and turned off his phone. Tomorrow he would call his lawyers. The foundation had always supported causes carefully. They evaluated organizations thoroughly. Perhaps it was time to add new criteria. Perhaps institutions should be judged not just on their mission statements, but on how their staff treated visitors, especially vulnerable visitors, especially those who moved slowly, spoke softly, and needed patience. The grandfather clock ticked on. William closed his eyes and listened to its steady rhythm. Outside, London traffic continued its endless rush. Fast cars, busy people, hurried lives. But here, in his chair by the cooling fire, time moved differently. Each second felt precious. Each moment worth savoring. When he was younger, he'd rush too. Building his business, making deals, always moving forward. Now he understood what his own grandparents had tried to tell him years ago. Speed wasn't everything. Kindness mattered. Respect was fundamental. The end. The next morning, William sat at his mahogany desk. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows of his study. He'd slept poorly, his mind churning with thoughts of the guard's behavior. At precisely 8 o'clock, he dialed his lawyer's number. James Mitchell answered on the second ring. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson. How are you today?" "I'm well, thank you, James," William replied. "I need to speak with you about the university." "Donation?" "Ah, yes, the Medical Research Center. The contracts are ready for your signature. Shall I bring them by this afternoon?" William took a deep breath. "Actually, I want to reconsider the donation." There was silence on the other end of the line. James finally spoke. "I'm sorry, could you repeat that, sir? I've changed my mind about donating to the university. Please inform them we're withdrawing the £50 million offer." "But, sir," James sounded shocked. "We've almost finalized everything. The university is preparing for construction. They're counting on this money." William remained calm. "People count on many things that don't materialize. Life has taught me that nothing is certain until it's done. May I ask why you're changing your mind? Is there an issue with the research project?" "The project is excellent," William explained, "but I've decided my foundation needs clearer standards for the organizations we support." After the call ended, James immediately contacted the university. He spoke with the development office, who connected him to Professor Bennett. "I'm afraid I have unexpected news," James told her. "Mr. Thompson has decided to withdraw his donation." Professor Bennett felt her heart sink. She'd spent months planning this project. Young researchers were excited about joining the team. Equipment had been ordered. But why? He didn't provide specific details. He mentioned something about his foundation's standards. Professor Bennett's hands shook as she hung up the phone. She immediately scheduled a meeting with the university. Chancellor Sir David Clarke. Within an hour, she was sitting in Sir David's grand office. The walls displayed portraits of previous chancellors, dating back 200 years. "What do you mean he's withdrawing £50 million? Sir David's face reddened with anger. "What happened? What did you do wrong?" "Nothing that I know of." Professor Bennett protested. "The meeting went well. He seemed pleased with our plans." Sir David stood up and began pacing. "This is a disaster. We've already allocated funds based on this donation. We've made promises to staff, to students. Should I call him, perhaps if I spoke with him directly?" "No," Sir David commanded. "First, I want to know exactly what happened yesterday. Who did he interact with? What did he see?" The Chancellor contacted the facilities manager, who reviewed the security logs and visitor records. They discovered William had entered through the main door at 9:45 a.m. and left at 11:30 a.m. "Check the CCTV footage," Sir David ordered. "I want to see everything." The security manager, Robert Hughes, brought up the videos. They watched William arrive, struggle with the revolving door and speak with the guards. "Can you enhance the audio?" Sir David asked. "I want to hear what they said." The recording was grainy, but clear enough. They could hear Jack and Tom's comments. "These old folks always taking their sweet time. Maybe he should have someone push his wheelchair next time." "Whatever, slow coach. Look, there goes Grandpa Slowpoke." Sir David's face turned crimson, with rage. "Who are these guards? Get them here immediately." Robert looked uncomfortable. "That's Jack Morrison and Tom Wright. They're two of our newer hires." "I don't care if they're the Queen's nephews. Get them here now." 20 minutes later, Jack and Tom stood in the Chancellor's office. They glanced nervously at each other, wondering why they'd been summoned. "Do you know who William Thompson is?" Sir David demanded. Both guards looked blank. "Is he someone important?" Jack asked. "He was going to donate £50 million to this university. £50 million to build a medical research centre that would save thousands of lives." The colour drained from their faces. "Yesterday morning, you mocked him, called him names. Made fun of his slow walking, do you remember? Tom swallowed hard. We were just joking around. Your jokes cost this university £50 million. Sir David slammed his fist on the desk. Do you have any idea what you've done? Jack spoke up, trying to defend himself. We didn't know he was rich. He just looked like any old man. That's the problem, Sir David exploded. You didn't bother to know. You judged him based on his age and speed of walking. How many other visitors have you insulted? Robert, the security manager, stepped forward. Sir, I should have monitored them better. They're both new to the position. They haven't completed all their training. Training in what? Basic human decency. Sir David turned back to Jack and Tom. Do you think it's acceptable to mock elderly people? To make fun of anyone who moves slower than you? No, sir, they mumbled in unison. We're sorry, Tom added. We didn't think it would matter. That's the second problem. You didn't think. Sir David took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. Jack Morrison, Tom Wright, you're both suspended pending a full investigation. Robert, I want a complete review of our security hiring and training procedures. After the guards left, Sir David sat heavily in his chair. Professor Bennett remained quiet, processing what had happened. Should I try contacting Mr. Thompson again? She asked. Perhaps explain the situation. Sir David shook his head sadly. I doubt it would help. He's not just punishing us for what happened. He's making a point about institutional responsibility. The afternoon passed in a blur. Word spread quickly throughout the university. Students heard the news in classrooms. Faculty members discussed it in staff rooms. Everyone wanted to know how £50 million had been lost. Some people blamed the university administrators. Others criticized the security department. A few defended Jack and Tom, saying everyone makes mistakes, but most people understood the deeper issue. In a world that moved quickly, respect for those who move slowly had been forgotten. Sir David spent the evening writing new policies for the university. Staff training would now include sensitivity courses. Security guards would learn about dignity and proper conduct. Late that night, he called Professor Bennett. I've been thinking, perhaps this incident, as devastating as it is, can teach us something important. What's that? She asked. That every person who walks through our doors deserves respect, regardless of age, speed, or wealth. That simple principle should guide everything we do. The next morning, newspapers carried the story. University loses 50 million donation due to disrespectful security. Public opinion divided. Some praised Mr. Thompson for taking a stand. Others thought he was being too harsh. But in universities across Britain, similar conversations began. How should staff treat elderly visitors? What training was necessary? Were institutions forgetting basic human dignity in their rush toward progress? Jack and Tom's families were devastated. Their parents couldn't believe their son's behavior had caused such damage. Their friends distanced themselves, embarrassed by the public scandal. In his Manchester flat, Jack lay awake at night replaying the incident. He remembered his grandfather, who had also walked slowly in his later years. His grandfather would have been ashamed of him. Tom wrote letters of apology, though he wasn't sure they would ever be read. He began volunteering at a local nursing home, trying to make amends for his mistakes. The medical research center remained unbuilt. Scientists who had planned to work there sought positions elsewhere. Equipment orders were cancelled. The dream of curing age-related diseases was postponed. But throughout Britain, security guards began treating elderly visitors with more patience. Universities reviewed their training programs. Hospitals added accessibility standards. In his London study, William received updates about these changes. He felt no satisfaction in the university's loss, but he hoped his decision would create lasting improvements. Sometimes, he reflected, the most powerful lessons come from the highest prices, the end. The next week, William's London home became a hub of activity. His phone rang continuously. Email messages flooded his inbox. Every charity and university in Britain, it seemed, wanted to understand how to earn his foundation's support. His secretary, Helen, struggled to keep up with the requests. Mr. Thompson, I have 17 messages from university chancellors. 23 from charity directors, and countless more from smaller organizations. William smiled gently. Schedule meetings with the smaller charities first. They need us most. Meanwhile, in Manchester, the university acted swiftly. Professor Bennett led a new initiative. Every staff member, from professors to cleaners, attended respect training sessions. They learned about ageism, disability awareness, and cultural sensitivity. Sir David addressed the entire university in a special meeting. We lost more than money. We lost trust. But we gain wisdom from this lesson. Every person who enters our doors deserves dignity. Jack and Tom didn't lose their jobs. Instead, the university offered them a choice: leave or complete an intensive rehabilitation program. Both young men chose to stay and learn. They began visiting elderly residents at local nursing homes. Jack spent afternoons with Frank, an 82-year-old former engineer who moved very slowly due to Parkinson's disease. "I'm sorry for how I behaved," Jack told Frank during his first visit. "I didn't understand what it's like." Frank patted Jack's hand with trembling fingers. Young people see slowness as weakness, but age brings strength of spirit. Tom worked at a hospital rehabilitation center. He helped patients relearn to walk after strokes or accidents. He saw firsthand how frustrating it was to move slowly in a fast-paced world. Patience isn't just waiting, an elderly patient named Margaret taught him. It's understanding that everyone has their own timing. Back in London, William began redistributing his foundation's funds. He created the Dignity First initiative. Every organization requesting support had to prove they treated all people with respect. He developed a simple test. His assistant would visit each organization as an elderly person, moving slowly and needing assistance. Organizations who passed this test received funding. The first recipients were small community centers, food banks, and local clinics. These places already understood the importance of respect because they worked directly with people in need. 6. Months after the incident, William decided to visit one of the centers he now supported. The Kensington Community Hub occupied a converted Victorian building. His foundation had helped renovate it, adding wheelchair ramps and comfortable seating areas. Michael drove him there on a sunny Tuesday morning. As they approached, William noticed the building's fresh paint and well-maintained garden. Children's artwork decorated the windows. "I'll come in with you, sir," Michael offered. "No need," William replied. "I want to see how they treat visitors on a normal day." William approached the main entrance slowly. His arthritis felt better today, but he still moved carefully. A young security guard stood by the door. His name tag read, Peter Chang. Peter noticed William approaching. Instead of watching impatiently, he stepped forward with a warm smile. "Good morning, sir. Please take your time. I'll hold the door for you." William was touched by the simple gesture. "Thank you, young man." "Of course. The floor can be a bit slippery near the entrance. Would you like to use the railing?" "That's very thoughtful," William said. He didn't need the railing, but appreciated the offer. Inside, the center bustled with activity. Elderly people played board games in one corner. Young mothers attended a parenting class. Teenagers worked with tutors in a study room. Mary, the center director, hurried over. "Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Please let me show you around." As they toured the facility, William observed how staff interacted with everyone. They spoke clearly to hard-of-hearing seniors. They waited patiently when people needed extra time. They offered help without making anyone feel helpless. In the main hall, children's laughter echoed from the new play area. The foundation's money had bought safe equipment and colorful decorations. "The playground was a dream come true," Mary explained. "Many of these children don't have safe places to play in their neighborhoods." William watched a grandmother pushing her granddaughter on a swing. Both were laughing, sharing a moment of pure joy. "This is what I hoped for," William said quietly. "Not just new equipment, but new connections between generations." After the tour, Mary offered tea in her office. "I heard about what happened at the university," she said carefully. "I want you to know we train all our staff in respect and kindness." "I can see that," William replied. "Your guard at the door treated me with dignity without knowing who I am." "Peter's wonderful. He's studying to be a teacher. He says working here helps him understand how to be patient. with all kinds of learners. As the afternoon wore on, William realized something important. His money hadn't just bought ramps and railings. It had supported places where respect was already valued. These community centers understood dignity because they saw it daily. Elderly volunteers helped young mothers. Teenagers taught seniors about technology. Different generations worked together, learning from each other. When William prepared to leave, Peter was still at the door. "Have a wonderful evening, sir. We're here every day if you'd like to visit again." William smiled gratefully. In the car, he felt lighter than he had in months. This was what his foundation should support, places where dignity wasn't just talked about, but lived daily. That evening, sitting by his fireplace, William reflected on his journey. The incident at the university had hurt, but it led to positive change. His money now helped organizations that already understood what mattered most. Helen brought the evening mail. Among the letters was one from Jack Morrison. With shaking hands, William opened it. "Dear Mr. Thompson, I'm writing to apologize sincerely for my behavior. Working with elderly patients has opened my eyes. I now understand the pain my words caused. Thank you for giving me a chance to learn and change. Respectfully, Jack." William set the letter down. Forgiveness felt right. Everyone deserved second chances to learn and grow. The grandfather clock chimed 8 times. Outside, London's evening rush continued, but inside William's study, peace settled over everything. He opened his journal and wrote, "Today I learned that respect grows best in soil already prepared for kindness. The most powerful buildings stand on foundations of human dignity." News of William's approach spread across Britain. Universities began implementing similar dignity tests. Businesses reconsidered how they treated elderly customers. The conversation about aging with respect entered public consciousness. Months later, articles appeared about the Thompson effect, how one man's stand for dignity changed institutional cultures across the country, but William remained humble. In interviews, he always said the same thing: "I'm just an old man who believes everyone deserves kindness. The real heroes are the people who practice this daily." The Medical Research Center eventually got built at another university, one that already valued respect for all patients and visitors. Scientific breakthroughs happened there, helping countless people live healthier lives. But perhaps the most important cure wasn't found in a laboratory. It was discovered in the simple recognition that every person, regardless of age or speed, deserves to be treated with dignity. William lived 6 more years, watching his foundation transform communities. He passed away peacefully at home, surrounded by photographs of children playing in the playgrounds he'd funded, of centers where kindness flourished. In his will, he left a message for future generations. Money can build beautiful things, but only respect can build beautiful societies. Choose kindness in every encounter. The person you help today might be you tomorrow. Years later, Peter the security guard became a beloved teacher. Jack Morrison became head of security at a major hospital, known for his compassion. Tom Wright opened a training center for security professionals, emphasizing dignity and respect. The Thompson story became a teaching example in universities. It showed how one moment of disrespect could cost millions, but how choosing kindness could create priceless change. And in community centers across Britain, plaques bore these words: "In honor of William Thompson, who taught us that the strongest foundations are built with respect." The end.